Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel and the World Class Championship Wrestling Review Series. We are up through, this is the final episode of 1982. December 28th, 1982 is a historic event because it is Ric Flair, Kerry Von Erich for the World Championship, the NWA Heavyweight Championship, in a steel cage. We see two very short locker room promos. From both combatants, Kerry Von Erich saying that he is going to avenge the damage done, the time lost at the bounty of Ric Flair. He's going to represent his family and be the first world champion. Von Erich, he is ready to take on Ric Flair, glad to have Michael Hayes in the cage as the referee, and etc. and so forth. Flair is in a suit, so obviously this taped hours or days before the actual match. He's in what appears to be the same locker room, perhaps a different side or something, and he is ready. He believes he can take care of Kerry. He believes he is the world champion for a reason, and he is not willing to back down at all. The cage match, which begins about 8 minutes or so into the episode, by the time we get the entrances out of the way, maybe 9 minutes, takes the remainder of the 44 minutes. So certainly a lot of pageantry. The cage is sturdily affixed around the ring. A wire cage, not the blue bars that you may have grown up with if you're a WWF fan of the 80s, but instead wire mesh is the way. Michael P.S. Hayes is your primary referee. There is a second referee in David Manning to uphold the rules of the NWA. Hayes comes out in jeans and no shirt. Should have been our first clue. Why would a referee not wear a referee shirt, we wonder. Anyway, Terry Gordy has been deputized by Michael Hayes to guard the door. And he says that's the way to keep things fair, keep everybody in the ring. The match itself is it's pretty classic. Michael is very prominent. He is willing to get in the face of Ric Flair several times in the early stages of the match for cheating and infractions of the rules. Flair keeps the match on the ground, working the leg of Kerry Von Erich. Of course, Von Erich has the knee injury from quite a bit before. Von Erich, though, does have a leg grapevine of his own that he works for several minutes, comes back to his feet and begins to brawl with Flair. Flair not taking backward steps, using the ring to his advantage. But it's clear that he is not as powerful as Kerry. I think that's very simple to note. Kerry will stand and trade with Flair and vice versa. A lot of brawling in the early stages of the contest. 15 minutes in, it's looking pretty even, in all honesty. We then see Kerry slap on a sleeper hold, which Kerry has used in the weeks leading up to this, making it appear as though the sleeper may be a reasonable expectation that Kerry could win with. This does not happen, however. Hayes throughout is hard on both men. Hardest on Flair, though, actually gets up in Flair's face around the 20-minute mark and is willing to, pull him off Kerry physically. Lawn darts Kerry into the cage. This brings about anger from Hayes. Why, we don't know, because it's legal within the confines of the cage. Flair tries to break things down, and both referees, what I find interesting in this is both referees make a simultaneous count, which if you're looking at it, looks reasonable on the up and up. Hayes is very animated, almost registering every move that takes place. About 23 minutes in, the beginning of the use of the cage is utilized, grating Flair's head across the cage. Hayes doesn't like this and actually physically pulls Kerry off of Flair. Flair busted open by this point or very soon thereafter. The use of the cage continues for several minutes, with Kerry maintaining an advantage because of the use of the cage. It's clear that the fans want Kerry to win, and one could make an argument that Kerry winning is something that matters to Hayes as well. Gordy holding on to the cage door, actually physically holding the door, at least partially, or having a hand on it even when it's closed, is acknowledged by the cameras a few times throughout the match, almost as if to say, I'm the gatekeeper and you ain't coming nowhere near here. But, we do see a return to the center of the ring. Flair tries the figure four. Kerry kicks him off. And again, Michael Hayes makes his way to a neutral corner. A second kickoff of same. And Hayes, again, looks uneasy, a little bit agitated, but we don't really know why. And so now, with a bloody Flair in hand, Kerry takes Flair back to the cage. Flair, with an exaggerated bit of selling, and might have even jacked himself with the blade a second time, even though he's bleeding. Anyway, low blow by Flair. This seems to certainly catch some people, maybe not off guard, but it's a switch for a moment. But then Hayes is in pretty close, just kind of watching the brawl between the two. We then see a figure four, and Hayes makes the count in Flair's favor. The match isn't over, as Kerry is always able to raise on a 2 count several times. But we do notice admirably that to this point, Hayes is upholding the rules. Flair trying to climb out of the cage at around the 29-minute mark. Kerry pulls him back in, including pulling the tights when needed. So things are, getting pretty intense. Flair falls between the cage and the ring rope area. Hayes, again, uses physical force to try and push Kerry back here, probably for about the third or fourth time. Actually throws Kerry this time away, and Kerry gets up. He's a little bit frustrated, but goes right back to Flair, realizing what's at stake, and does so aggressively, again using the cage. The story of the cage brilliantly told here. As you got some good stuff here. The claw is utilized in about the 30-minute mark or so, and then goes into the sleeper, catches him with the claw, then switches to the sleeper. There's at least maybe not half dozen, but 3 or 4 times where you really do think that Flair is going to lose the championship here. Hayes is over communicating with Terry Gordy. Do not really know what they're saying to each other. The camera does not pick this up, but they are communicating for a good 30-45 seconds at about the 31-minute mark. Hayes actually is away from things. David Manning takes over while Flair is barely moving in the claw. He is on the canvas. He is barely able to move shoulders. Now Hayes is frustrated. He actually puts his hands on the referee here. He is pulling or attempting to pull Kerry off, and it's clear that for some reason, and they're struggling now. And if you notice, at about 31.5 minutes, Flair he yanks Kerry off by this point. Now they have issues. So Kerry is up. He's in the face of Michael Hayes. Hayes claims that Flair had his foot on the ropes, and that is reason to break the claw hold. That does not take place. At this point, Flair comes up with a knee to the back. Kerry goes into Hayes. Hayes does not go down, but there has been contact physically made. Now at this point, Kerry is by the door, and Flair starts to choke on Kerry. But Kerry is literally at the door. He is right there, and it is completely clear. Now Flair has frustrated Hayes for some reason because he's not obeying the rules either. At this point, there is a shove and actually a knockdown by Flair of Hayes. So now Hayes is basically annoyed with both. Hayes punches Flair right between the eyes, gets into it with the referee, shoves the referee, not once but twice, encouraging Kerry, come on, cover him. I made this happen for you. Let's make it work. Actually takes Kerry and drags him over to Flair, and then has him make the visual cover. Kerry complained he doesn't want to win that way. Now there's a shove of the referee, a shove of Hayes, and Hayes shoves, and then now Kerry spins Hayes around. Again, there's the knee to the back. This time, Michael Hayes goes flying out the door, and right there, Terry Bam Bam Gordy slams the door on the head of Kerry Von Erich. Kerry is barely conscious, if conscious at all. We don't really know. What we know is that at this point, the announcers are playing it like this could be a mistake. But Hayes comes back in the ring, throws the referee down, and tries to make a quick count for Flair. This is not effective. Hayes again goes at the referee, goes face-to-face with him, shoves him off, and Terry Gordy waves him away. Now, at this point, the match still continues because we don't have a winner and it is a cage match. Flair becomes exceptionally aggressive. Flair is beating the tar out of Kerry Von Erich. The referee is spending a good bit of time checking on Kerry, the glassiness of his eyes, his ability to defend himself. We don't know that he has a full concussion yet. However, moments later, probably about 2 or 3 minutes later, it is clear that Kerry cannot continue. He is dazed, he's glassy-eyed, he's unable to continue. They replay the issue with Hayes and all that through the announcer. The Von Erich boys / brothers are in ring checking on Kerry. This is it's a horrible scene as Kerry has obviously been injured. The word concussion is uttered a couple of times. It takes both of the other Von Erich brothers, 2 men, to get Kerry up and out of the cage. And that is where we leave 1982. A dazed Kerry has been robbed once again, betrayed by the Freebirds, and ultimately the Von Erichs and the Freebirds are going to take over in 1983. I have not watched the beginning of 1983 yet. Probably going to do some of that later today, maybe tomorrow, but it's been a fun journey through 82. 83, I've heard, is the best year for World Class. Enjoy the journey. But until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.